a few more people are coming. But thank you for joining me, for coming back. Today I want to show you Sable Breton. Sable Breton sounds already very French, right? So it's a French, actually a cookie, not a dessert, it's a French cookie. And I will tell you a little bit about the meaning of it, the history of it. Sable Breton is basically a French cookie, butter cookie. What is the French version of the British shortbread, let's say. Now, the name Sable Breton also has a meaning. Sable means sand, sandy, and Breton is the region in France. And the region is very, very famous for butter, especially salted butter, sea salt butter. So therefore, the name Sable Breton means a sandy, buttery cookie. And that is exactly what it is, but I'm not going to make it as a cookie today, even though that's what it is and what it is famous for in France. I'm going to use this cookie dough as a tart base, as you can see here. This is what a Sable Breton looks like. So first I will show you how to make it. I'm going to put in the mixing bowl French butter. This is not salted butter because I'm using only unsalted butter in pastry, but I'm going to add salt to it. So
I had one question in our country, sometimes unsalted butter is not available in importing. So in that case, can I use the salted butter?
you can use the salted butter instead of unsalted butter, and then you just don't add the salt to it. But because in my operation I always use unsalted butter, and I have this beautiful French unsalted butter, so I'm going to use it and I'm adding salt to it. So for the sablé, I'm going to use 250 gram butter, nice French butter. Now, when I use the butter, make sure, you see it's very soft. It's always at room temperature. Don't use the ice cold butter from the chiller. Nice room temperature butter. Room temperature butter, because everything you're going to add now to the butter is much easier to incorporate into the butter when it's at room temperature. When it's cold, it's very difficult. So I have 250 gram butter. I'm going to add 200 gram of sugar in here. And the sea salt that I just spoke about. I have a nice sea salt here, also called fleur de sel. 6 gram. I'm going to add that to my butter. Now I put it in my machine with a pedal attachment or this scraper attachment, not a whisk. And on slow speed, you just cream the butter and the sugar together. Yeah? You don't go on fast speed, because then you will whip a lot of air inside. And that is one thing, you don't want to add air to the butter. Now, also for the sablé, I have here 300 gram of flour. The flour I'm using is normal cake flour, so T45, and baking powder. I have 12 gram of baking powder that I'm going to add to the flour. The flour is already sifted, so I don't have any lumps inside. And what is important for Sable Breton is egg yolk. It has always egg yolk inside. So again, as usual, I'm using pasteurized egg yolk just for safety reasons. So make sure we don't have any salmonella or something inside. So when my butter and the sugar is creamed together, you see it's not fluffy or anything, it should look like this. Yeah? Then I'm going to add my egg yolk to it, what is 40 gram, 40. 40 gram of egg yolk. There we go. And again, I combine all of this on slow speed, not fast. Just get everything in. Once the egg yolk is combined with the butter and the sugar, I'm going to add my flour and my baking powder slowly to it. And still, I keep on running on slow speed. Don't go fast. No air inside, because the baking powder will bring it up already.
Ma'am, just confirm the flour is 345
300 gram. 300 gram, but the type of flour is T45. So, and as soon as the mixture is combined, and you see there's no more flour, no more butter lumps, and it's all nicely come together, and it basically looks like this, right? That's when you stop. Don't overwork it. Look, this is what it should look like.
So it's more like sweet dough.
Yes, it's almost like a sweet dough, but softer because of a big amount of flour inside, a big amount of butter inside, sorry. So now, as it is very soft, you see, it's difficult to work with it. So you have to put it in the chiller for like 2 to 3 hours. So what I do is I'm taking it out of my bowl, make it a little bit flat, wrap it in clean film completely, and put it in the chiller for like 2 to 3 hours to rest. And after that, I start rolling it, only afterwards. When it is cold, you can easily roll it either with a rolling pin by hand or on a machine, no problem. And then I'm going to cut it out in whatever shape you want it. I today used like a round ring, small ones and big ones. Keep in mind there's baking powder inside, right? What means when you bake it, it will still come up. So don't roll it too thick, thinking it will stay like that. It will come up because of the baking powder. So when you roll it, let's say on like 3 to 4 millimeters, you will end up with like that thickness because of the baking powder. I bake it at around 180 degrees. The time always depends on your oven. Each oven is a little bit different, but on 180, this one will take around 12 minutes in my oven, and your oven might be 2 minutes shorter or longer. Just go by the color. When it's gold brown, it's usually done. I use a deck oven. I bake it in a deck oven with a chamotte stone, but you can also bake it in a convection oven. It's no problem. It's hard to say because especially with domestic ovens, there's like a huge difference. Just go by the color. When it's like nice and brown colored like this, it's done. So now you can, of course, add any sort of cream on there. You can just use a whipping cream, a chantilly cream, diplomat cream, a pastry cream, whatever. What I want to show you today is a custard cream, but made from scratch, not with custard powder. So I'm going to make a set custard, and I'm going to set it not with the typical custard powder, but it's a mix of cornstarch, vanilla flavor, yellow color, and wheat starch. I'm going to thicken it today with pectin. So I'm going to show you how that works. For the set custard, of course, first of all, we need a liquid. So we're going to use cream, just normal whipping cream. I use the same French cream as I use for my butter. So it's a very French dessert today. 500 grams of liquid cream I'm going to put into my pot. Then I'm going to add a little bit milk, 75 grams. Perfect. Then we want to thicken it. As I said, I'm going to use pectin. There's different type of pectins. Yes. I'm using egg and pectin. I'm using both. You can make it only with egg, but the texture will be a little bit different with the pectin. You will see it when yes, and it's creamy from the egg. You can taste the egg, but the pectin gives it a thicker but pipeable, very nice consistency. So yes, exactly. So there are different types of pectins. So how many different types do you know? No? Okay, the most common ones. Let's only talk about the most common ones. There's pectin NH, there's pectin jaune or yellow pectin, and we use pectin X58. These are the three most common ones that we use in pastry. There's many more, but these are the three most common ones. So let's say you want to make a fruit sauce. Just thicken a sauce to use it on your plate or something. For that case, you would use pectin NH. If you want to make a jam or a pâte feu, pectin jaune. And pectin X58 is a bit of a different one, exception. I use it when I have anything with milk, with cream, etc., that has calcium inside. Because normally you would add acid to anything that you're trying to bind with pectin. Let's say you make a jam, like you said, you would add at the end some form of acid, either lemon juice or citric acid or whatever, that will activate the pectin and thicken. Now here, I cannot add any acid because it will split my dairy, my cream and my milk, right? But that's why pectin X58, because I don't need the acid, because the dairy will do the trick. So, yes, as Christian said, you can just do it with eggs. So instead of using egg and pectin, you can increase the amount of egg. It will also thicken. Yeah, yeah, it is softer, but it will thicken as well. There's also one reason why I'm not using normal custard powder here in that set custard, because custard powder contains starch. And if you use a starch that is not modified, like a normal starch from the supplier, from the supermarket shelf, a non-modified starch, it won't be freeze stable. Starch will always hold on to the liquid, it will thicken it, but the moment you freeze it, the crystals are breaking down. When it defrosts, the water starts leaking out. Starch is not freezable. So I'm going to make it without. So I have here now milk and cream inside. I have sugar here and pectin here. So I'm going to add a little bit sugar into my pectin, simply to make sure it does not lump the moment I put it into the liquid. So no lumps. If I mix it with my sugar before, then I can just add it. And the rest of the sugar I'm going to put into a bowl. By the way, the sugar is 62 grams, in case you want to write down the recipe. It's 62 grams. And I'm going to add egg to the sugar. Here we're going to use 65 gram egg yolk. Again, the egg will thicken my mix also a little bit more. And whole egg, I'm going to add as well, 75 gram. There we go. Take a whisk, combine this egg and the sugar, and I leave it on the side. I'm going to start boiling my cream and the milk. And I'm going to add a little bit vanilla to it, fresh vanilla stick. I'm going to scrape it out, like I showed you in my other class where we did the cream, the vanilla cream. And in that class I also told you to don't throw away the vanilla pots when they are empty, when you have scraped them out and the seeds are in here. Keep them, put them in, boil it with. This is the one I have left from the class on, I think Tuesday it was. So I just put it in because there's still a lot of flavor in the vanilla pot. So just keep it, boil it, and get more flavor out of it. Here, my whole egg and egg yolk mixed with the sugar. You don't need to whisk it foamy or whatever. Just bring the cream to boil. Just before it starts boiling, I'm taking my pectin and sugar mix. I'm going to add it in here. Now, it won't lump anymore because I mixed the pectin with a little bit of the sugar. And now I have to bring it to boil, because if you use pectin, it has to boil. So that's why the pectin has to go in as this step already and not later, because with the egg I cannot boil it anymore. So I have to put it in whilst it is only cream. And now bring it to a boil with the pectin. You see it starts boiling. The moment it starts boiling, I take it off and I add it into my egg mixture just to temper it.